Hi everyone, it is the morning after quite the night. I'm sure not many of us got any sleep because we were just so up watching this nail-biting results finish taking place in terms of what many can say has been one of the most closely contested general election in Jamaica. Now, last night I already did a video right after Andrew Holness's victory speech, in which of course I laid out the details in terms of him creating history for the JLP, being the first JLP leader to win 3 consecutive terms. It also included part of Mark Golding's concession speech. So you can check that out, of course, on my YouTube, The Trailblazers with Tamara TV. And of course, thanks to the many of you who have subscribed throughout the campaign period, we continue these conversations with our political leaders from both sides. So make sure you're subscribed. Thank you for the many of us who continue to follow me as well, either on TikTok or on Instagram, you name it. I appreciate it. Quickly, this is not going to be a long video, but I just wanted to quickly dissect some of what took place. So first and foremost, what happened to the internet last night? Digicel Flow. I know you later put out a notice to say it was the act of vandalism, but it was crazy, especially on a crucial night like that so many of us did not have Wi-Fi. I literally, to be honest with you, I haven't turned on a physical TV in a while because I was like watching it on YouTube and I had to dust off the TV and turn it on because the Wi-Fi, our data was just so choppy. So indeed, it does look very weird on a night like the election night that all of a sudden the internet gone. Anyway, it is what it is. We move. Next thing I want to talk about is in terms of the voter turnout. Now, the last official voter turnout that the Electoral Office of Jamaica said, they said it was 39.9%. That is literally just a little above what took place, what the voter turnout was during COVID. That is very bad. That is very low. That is very bad. It's also very concerning because you mean to tell me not even 40% properly of Jamaicans are interested in voting? And it's not that I'm shocked. It's just that because really and truly having these conversations even before the elections, I realized so many people who are just not interested. So many of my friends, young people like me, who, I mean, probably I'm different because I've always just been interested and involved in, political affairs. And I love things like that from when I was like a little kid and. But so many of my friends, they just weren't interested. They weren't interested in voting. They didn't vote. And it is a serious concern, though. I think it's something that we really have to look into because what is now therefore happening is that you have less than 40% of the country deciding the country's future. And it's a matter to be looked at. Jamaicans are just not interested in voting, and as I'm doing this video, I want you to share in the comments, if you didn't vote, why are you not interested in voting? What is it that is turning you away from politics? I genuinely want to know because I think that this is an important conversation to have. Indeed, we did expect this election to be close, but honestly, it was a nail-biting finish. There were times, even for example, with the Prime Minister-elect, Dr. Andrew Holness, there was time when Buchanan was leading him for much of the night. We were like, hold on, is the Prime Minister, is Andrew Holness going to be losing his seat? That was how nail-biting a finish it was. And, just to see like the numbers, how close the numbers were. But it is also a good thing, though, in terms of the fact that and these are preliminary results, we do know that there will be magisterial recount in at least maybe a few seats based on the numbers. So with the current standing at 34 for the ruling Jamaica Labour Party and the opposition at 29, in terms of how robust parliament is, it augurs well, because what you have now is a more, not to say that the opposition wasn't already involved, but in terms of passing certain laws, the ruling party will need to rely on the opposition to make certain changes, to make certain amendments, as opposed to the landslide that was there before. So that is definitely, I think, a good thing for Jamaica's democracy. But it also shows a clear split in the country, at least for those who voted, because here you have almost half of the country that is for Andrew Holness, and then you have another who are not for him. And so it also is a time needed for, I would say, renewal. The Prime Minister spoke about that in his victory speech. And we also need some unity. We need to see more unity between both parties, especially after a very heated, and one analyst used the word bruising campaign, because definitely hot words were spoken. Quickly before my time runs out, some of the notables back in Parliament who won their seats. So these were people who once were in Parliament, and the last time they lost their seats. The PNP, of course, picked up quite a number of seats. They were 14 seats before, and now they're at 29. So among those, Peter Bunting in South Manchester, he was actually, I think, probably the first person whose seat was declared as winner. So last time he was in Central Manchester, he's now in South Manchester. We're seeing Richard Azan. We're seeing, and these are just some of the people who were once in Parliament. They're back in. Damien Crawford, also another notable person back in Parliament. One of the big shockers of the night, which I'm seeing all across social media, is Anne-Marie Vaz losing her seat there in East Portland. I know many people are shocked about it, but one should also remember the historical context of that seat. That seat was actually always a PNP seat. Not to say that no seat is PNP or JLP seat, no, as we've seen in these elections, but it generally voted for the PNP. And so even though many are shocked, you have to also look at the fact that, yeah, historically it was a PNP seat. But it is indeed still a big shocker, because many expected Anne-Marie Vaz to win back that seat. And then we also have some new faces, quite a bit of new faces. I can't go through all of them, but you have Delano Siv right there. Well, he won Carl Samuda's seat. Keisha Burchell, the Queen of the South in St. James. And so many others, Alfred Dawes, Zulika Jess, from both political parties. So yes, it was indeed quite the night. So much more to discuss, so much more to dissect. Drop your thoughts in the comment section.